Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast, a winning episode of the podcast, as your Kentucky Wildcats were able to take down the 15th ranked Missouri Tigers in Columbia, Missouri. Found a way to win 91-83 to wrap up SEC regular season play just in time to get feeling good for the postseason and all in time to get down to Nashville to hopefully win a couple more games. Jacob, what was your thoughts on Saturday's game?
Well, yeah, first off, I can't believe that the season's already over. We're already at this point. It feels like just yesterday we were talking about Pope being introduced and, you know, getting our season previews for this game. So, this year just flew by. But Saturday, just another very impressive Kentucky win against another really good team and another top 15 team win for the Cats. And, the first 8 minutes of this game was about as dreadful as I think I've seen this team play. Maybe even including Ohio State. Nobody looked good. We had 4 points 12 minutes left in the first half, and then, Trent Noah hit a pretty big three, and then just from there, the game sparked, the game changed, and Kentucky played essentially excellent down for that last 12 minutes of the first half and all of the second half.
Like you mentioned, both teams got out to a real slow start in this game. Not many points were being scored, especially for two teams who, have scored into the hundreds in the season, scored into the 90s plenty of times. It was very weird to see. But as you mentioned, Kentucky was really able to get it going. And it was a lot of thanks to guys, we've been talking about need to make those shots in key moments. You've already mentioned Trent Noah. How about somebody stepping up just in general? Andrew Carr, back-to-back really good games from him. He's really starting to look healthy. 33 minutes, almost 34 minutes in this game, a double-double, 16 points, 12 rebounds, 2 of 3 from 3. He's starting to take those a little bit with more confidence now, like you've been wanting him to all season. Just a really good game from Andrew Carr. What'd you see from him, and how excited are you to see this Andrew Carr back?
Yeah, I've said all year, Andrew Carr is one of my favorite players on this team, and I think Saturday was a pretty good showcase of why. He played excellent on Saturday. 16 points, 12 rebounds. Did a lot of the stuff that, outside of the offense that at times we have been critical of. I thought he played really, really good defense as well at times. Definitely one of his better overall all-around games, and you can just tell like this is just a different offense and potentially maybe even a little different defense now that he's starting to get healthy and that back is healing up.
Yeah. The defense, especially through that first 8 minutes of this game, was really good. Obviously, towards the end, we're kind of giving up buckets at will, but that was mainly from their guards. Obviously, Marquez Warwick, you brought him up a lot pregame. The guy goes for 17 points. I'm sitting there thinking, is he going to play 3 minutes this game? Or like Boyer says, he's going to play 20-something. And he comes out and scores 17 points against, his childhood team. What'd you think about him before we start diving into more of the Cats?
Yeah, especially with Kentucky getting the win, I was pretty happy for him. That was a cool moment. Like I said, watched that kid for the last 4 years at NKU, and the first half he only played 2 points, and I was kind of scratching my head because with as bad as Mizzou's offense looked in that first half, I thought they would give him some run. That's the one thing he is kind of a quick scorer, and then he just lit us up down the stretch. The game was essentially over at that point, but he made a lot of threes to where you couldn't just dribble the ball out.
Yeah, and something Kentucky has struggled to do is really find a way to be able to guard guys with that range and scoring ability. Hopefully, we're facing either Georgia or Oklahoma coming soon. Both of those, they have pretty good wings as well. So hopefully, Ortega will be able to step up a little bit more in this game. And then, like you meant, we're going to mention Colin Chandler a little bit later. Hopefully those defensive prowesses continue to show up a little bit more in these games. But, guy we talk about, obviously, week in, week out, Amari Williams, just a really solid game in this one. And the thing that really, shows out the most to me is 10 of 12 from the free throw line. If he's going to be 10 of 12 from the free throw line, he's just got to stay on the floor for, 35 minutes in any game that we play going out, because all of them are, win and go home at this point. 14 points, 8 rebounds. 2 assists as well, and got a block shot. We didn't need a lot from Amari Williams, but he gave us exactly what we did.
Yeah, and how about this team just in general making free throws on Saturday? Pretty much across the board. I know Carr missed 2. I think those were on the same trip to the line, but Outside of that, they all shot pretty well, and then made the big ones down the stretch to kind of keep Missouri at a distance. But Amari, I mean, we say it every game. It feels like just another very solid game. Maybe this one he didn't have the triple double that blows your mind, or the perfect game from the floor, but like just so consistent out there. Plays with a plus 13, and then you look at his replacement with a -6. Like there's just so much that he brings to this team for the good, and on both sides, whether it's offensive or defense. He was huge on Saturday again, and going to be a huge piece to the run that hopefully this team can make in a week.
Boy, oh boy, man. We didn't even get 6 minutes into this podcast with a nice little Brandon Garrison jab out of the front. Normally we wait a little bit longer until we get to some of those jabs, but he caught a stray early in this one.
I don't know if it's a stray. I think it's pretty well expected.
I mean, I can't say enough about Amari Williams. I think he's just stepping up to the plate in more ways than we can even ask for this team. When Jackson went down, he started scoring more.
Yep.
Obviously, when Carr went out, he was getting more rebounds. It just seems like he keeps molding his game to what the team needs on a game-in and game-out basis. And, 10 to 12 from the line. He didn't turn the ball over. Those are the two categories that I'm going to look at a lot when it comes to Amari Williams, because you expect him to get the rebounds. You expect him to be able to put up about 10 points or so per game. But that free throw line and that turnover rate, assist-to-turnover ratio is what's really going to propel Kentucky to games. Maybe they shouldn't win later in March.
Absolutely. He to your point, he's always just kind of doing what this team needs him. Even in the losses, we talk about it, like he's played great, and without him on the floor, you're probably losing by a hell of a lot more than you did. And there's been games where I feel like he's the sole reason you won. He just makes plays that you got to have made, and does the rebounding when at times it's felt like no one else has wanted to. Obviously, Andrew Carr had a big help in this game, but just always there to kind of make the plays that it feels like a lot of guys on this team don't want to make.
Yeah, and just the effort that he's shown, really since that first Georgia game. And, of course, Georgia can be, a team that we are matched up with on Thursday night. Somebody, obviously another team that we could play as well, Oklahoma. That was the Otega-Oweh game. In this game, 22 points, a little non-efficient from the floor on this one, 6 of 17 shooting, but 8 of 10 from the line. The thing about Otega that keeps killing me as of late, it's only 2 rebounds and 1 assist. I think just when he adds, those extra statistics, able to affect the game in other ways, he's more effective in the game, and he's able to get more for his teammates and things like that. I wish he'd take less of an emphasis on scoring. Some games, obviously in this game we needed it, but I'd like to see his effort transition more to the defensive side of the ball and out in transition.
Yeah, I texted you during the game, and I thought, the first half of the game, he was in a little bit of foul trouble, but I thought it was probably his worst half of the year, and that includes, Alabama, where he only had 2 points. I thought he was really bad. I thought he was hurting the team a lot more than he was helping. There was a big play in particular where we were kind of making a run, and he drove into 3 guys, and he had Travis Perry at the top of the 3-point line at one point. Then as he drives, Brea's man leaves him in the corner. So, like, there were 2 wide open threes on that possession, and he took a contested layup against 3 defenders. And instantly, right after he does that, he gets the steal for the run-out dunk, and then, Pope pulled him because of fouls. But another game where the second half, I thought he really kind of dominated and made a lot of plays that, we needed to be made. I thought he played really well again down the stretch, made 2 threes in this game, and just if you can get him to kind of be consistent throughout a game, this team's obviously really tough to beat. But just like I said, another game where we're looking at it, and he had a really strong finish to the game and was a big reason in closing this one out.
Yeah, it's crazy that we're talking about the consistency with Otega because, prior to the last 5 games, he was the most consistent in this one.
Yeah.
But, just looking back on it, you mentioned that Alabama game, he was terrible. Wins us the game at Oklahoma. That Auburn game, he was awful. LSU played well, and Missouri plays well. So if we can just get that consistent Otega-Oweh, especially, I think it's more of an effort thing. Said, like you said, he has a 1-on-3 where he's got Travis Perry open as well. 1 assist to 3 turnovers in this game. I mean, he's got to look for more passing opportunities. I know that he's probably one of our best finishers, and right now he's making free throws when he gets to the line. And sometimes we do need him to force up that offense. But we also got to remember we do have really good shooters who don't get too many open looks from three. So when we can't get it to them, we need to.
Yeah, and I just felt like he was really kind of forcing it in the first half. That's been something we've talked about with him really all year. Is you want to see him kind of play within the rhythm of the offense. Like I understand it, if Brea and all of our shooters are combined 0 for 11, and it's late in the first half and we're sitting on 20 points, right? And you want to get aggressive and try to make something happen, but at that point, Brea had already knocked down a couple threes. The offense was kind of getting into a rhythm. There's just times where there's those little things, but don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say the guy that scored 20 points in the second half and made a couple shots that kind of put the game away, had a bad game by any stretch.
Yeah.
So definitely, a much better second half. And I mean, if you can tell me he scores no points in the first half every game in the rest of the year, but he's scoring 20 in the second, I'm going to feel pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to see that because I don't know if my heart can take it. Going through a first half of him scoring 0. But I mean, if he's guaranteed to get 20 and it's all in the second half, I guess I'll allow that.
Yeah, you take it.
But you mentioned Ortega in foul trouble. I mean, that's starting to become a running theme as of late. And even in this game, he's got 4 fouls. Lamont Butler got 4 fouls in this game. Lamont's starting to work his way into more consistent foul trouble as well. I mean, these are two guys that, outside of Amari Williams, are probably your two most valuable when it comes to a game in, game out basis.
Absolutely.
We really got to get these guys to be able to play without their hands, without reaching so much. I know they get a lot of steals, Lamont especially, but we need these guys on the court. And Ortega specifically has been able to find his way off the court because of foul trouble.
Yeah, it'll be interesting though. Coming in March, you're obviously not going to have SEC officials, and when you look kind of around all of college basketball, like the SEC calls the most fouls. So it will be interesting maybe if those guys continue to play with that same level of aggressiveness but don't get called as often. But yeah, to your point, like they just can't make bad fouls. Like there's times, especially Ortega, I feel like, it was the Alabama game or the Auburn game we were talking about it, and Alabama. He did it both games where it's just like you got 3 fouls, Pope's putting you in, trusting you to kind of play smart, and he's immediately running into a guy. So just little things like that, but yeah, you got to clean that up.
Yeah, it's got to be cleaned up, especially, I mean, winning this SEC tournament is going to be harder than, just getting to the Elite Eight or the Final Four. So obviously you want to see what the Cats are made of. A big part of that's going to be Lamont Butler and how he plays in this tournament. The 25 minutes in this game, he was in foul trouble. It does seem like he's starting to get a little bit more confidence in that shoulder. It seems like he's able to, go through screens a little bit harder. It seems a little bit less limited. But 8 points, 3 of 6 shooting, 2 assists to 1 turnover. No steals for him in this game, a little uncharacteristic. I didn't think it was a bad game from Lamont, but I also didn't think he helped the team too much either.
Yeah, I thought, honestly, it was kind of still ramping back up in one of his better games. Obviously it's not the Louisville game that he went out and played, but I thought he played pretty well. We saw him finish a couple difficult layups. That was obviously something we've been pretty critical of as of late, but to your point, I think his shoulder's finally starting to get back a little bit. To me, the big thing is the turnovers. He had 6 against Auburn or whatever. Like, you're not going to beat really anybody, whether good or bad team, with Lamont turning the ball over 6 times. So he's starting to kind of get that rhythm back, and I thought he looked fine.
Yeah, and of course, hopefully, he's getting ramped up. Obviously, don't play until Thursday, from Saturday through Thursday, a little bit of an off period for Lamont. Hopefully, getting closer back to 100%. Somebody who, I mean, I don't know, I feel like every single game for the past 5 or 6 outside of LSU has played more than 35 minutes in every single one of those games. Kobe Brea, he was great in this game. 17 points, 6 of 9 from the floor, 3 of 5 from 3. And the thing I love the most about it, 2 assists with 0 turnovers and 1 steal. I mean, he's finding ways to impact the game more than I think we ever thought.
Yeah, Kobe's becoming the guy on this team the most. Obviously, he's not the best player on this team, but I think he's the guy you can't have off the floor just because of that shooting ability. Everything is just opened up so much more. Whether you saw how they switched and guarded this game in the second half, he makes 3 threes in the first half. Second half, they did not leave him. Face guarded him. They weren't even watching the ball. They weren't trying to see where it was. It was a man right in his face, and that opens it up for Ortega to go out and get 20 in the second half and have more driving lanes. Like, there's a lot that kind of contributes just to Kobe Brea being out there. And even if he can't get to the ball, can't get his shot off, he's just such a threat out there that I think that's why you're seeing him play 35 plus minutes essentially every game. That's going to be a close game throughout.
Yeah, to your point, Missouri came out and made it a point that they weren't going to let Kobe Brea beat them from three. And something that I really think I've grown to love the most about Kobe, I mean, I think he's effortlessly just taken over Jackson Robinson's role in this offense. Now, obviously, losing Jackson is still a huge piece because we don't have that extra scorer. But I do love his ability to come in and fill in. And I love how I feel like lately we've seen him every game it's 8, 10, 12 shots. He's getting it from the floor. He's not as hesitant as he was earlier in the season. I love this. I love the confidence that we're seeing from him. And I think it's somebody that we really need going into March, especially if he's going 3 of 5 from 3. And, I still want him to shoot more than those.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they definitely, especially after he made his third, completely they were just denying him the ball and not letting him leave. But it's everything else. I feel like we talk about it every game, but just that little turnaround jumper after he made his third three and they were kind of forcing him off the 3-point line and he gets, to the mid-range and hits a little turnaround jumper. Like, if we can just kind of have him continue to get more and more shots, I'm all for it. And we've said it a million times, like, the guy cannot shoot the basketball enough for me. And now that has transitioned to just threes to, I want him to be a driver. I want him to work for that mid-range. If he's got a mismatch, I want him to take it. He's a much better scorer than just a spot-up 3-point shooter.
Yeah, and he's proven that, especially since Jackson's went out. And the thing I'm looking forward to seeing with Kobe the most is I think he should be this team's leading scorer. I think he should be the guy who's getting the most shots. I mean, I love when Ortega's driving the ball to the basket because it opens up, offensive rebound potential. Like, Carr had 5 in this game alone. Amari had 2. It opens up stuff for guys like that. But, I mean, I don't know if there's any shot that Kobe shoots that I don't feel confident that it's going in. So I would love for him to be the primary option of our offense, especially when he's going, because he's also shown the ability as of late to make those passes, to get hit open guys, which we haven't seen from Ortega.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would love for him, as we make this run, for his role to essentially be ramped up. To your point, there's not a bad shot I don't think he can take. I mean, if there's 4 or 5 seconds left on the shot clock, like, I want him to have the ball in his hand and make a play. And you saw it in this game. I mean, there was he had that late shot clock play. Everybody kind of gravitates to him, and with a second left, he hits Travis Perry in the corner for a wide open 3. Like that's a huge play, and that's a play that, like, you expect a playmaking point guard to make. And everybody and their mother thought that Kobe Brea was going to pull a tough 3, and he hits Travis Perry right in stride for the 3 right at the buzzer, and just, like, situational basketball, and he's just getting so much better as just an overall playmaker throughout the year.
Yeah, and I really think it allows us to be able to spell Lamont a little bit more. He looks comfortable handling the ball, getting it up the floor a little bit more, especially as of late. I mean, somebody who, we've kind of picked on a little bit as of late for not being able to get the ball over the floor. Colin Chandler was really good in this game. 3 of 5 from the floor, gave you 16 quality minutes, 8 points, and 2 of 4 from 3. I mean, granted, he didn't give you many of the extra stats, didn't give you many rebounds or anything like that. But, I mean, if Colin's just a threat from 3-point range, I mean, that just opens this offense to a whole nother level.
He's becoming it, and he is such a different player from earlier in the year. I know we talked about it after the LSU game, but it's so true. Like, he looked like a deer in headlights early in the year with the ball. He would still play his defense, but when the ball hit his hands, it was just like an instant panic, or how do I get this to someone else, like, as quick as possible. But, I mean, he made 2 really big threes in this game at, big moments, and, drove the ball well, played solid defense again. I mean, if he continues to kind of come into his own, and, we don't expect him to be Jackson Robinson, right? Like, he's not going to go out and take that role. But if he can be a guy that can continue to give you that 15, 16-ish minutes, when a couple of these guards, whether it's Owe or Brea or Butler, needs a break, if he can be your primary guard off the bench and play like this team, I think it opens up new possibilities where maybe you didn't have without Jackson.
Yeah, and when this team was really humming at the beginning of the season, that was when Kobe was able to play in that specialized role. And obviously, Colin is not that same shooter. But if he can take over that Kobe Brea role from earlier in the season and having Brea take over Jackson's spot from earlier, it makes you feel a lot more comfortable, especially with Colin's ability to defend and usually his athletic ability. He had a block shot in this game as well, and seems like he's turning the ball over a little bit less. And you mentioned a lot of that is just due to his comfortability right now in SEC play.
Yeah, I mean, he at the beginning of the year looked like a freshman, and now he's starting to get more and more comfortable. And I thought this was a big test because like this one was on the road. Like a lot of the better games we've seen him play, it's been in Rupp with the crowd behind him. I thought it was a really big step in the right direction to see him go on the road and look as comfortable. Because I mean, he looked pretty shaky at Alabama. A couple of those tough environments, like he would pick up early fouls or the bad turnovers, not being able to get the ball past half court, like we talked about in some of the other games. But for him to be able to, in that environment, go out there and just play cool, calm, and collected, it really kind of shows the growth that he's had this season.
Yeah, he really has been growing, and hopefully he continues to grow into tournament time. Brandon Garrison in this one, I mean, you already took a shot at him before 6 minutes in this one. He was in foul trouble for most of this game, didn't get to 10 minutes, 0 for 2 from the floor. I mean, he was able to give you 4 rebounds in the 10 minutes, did have a pretty poor turnover in there as well. I mean, Brandon Garrison, this is kind of what we expect from him, honestly, is just, go in there, have one good game. The next game, he's not good, and not good for another game, and good the next one. I mean, we just never know what you're getting from him game in and game out. And then this was one of those games where he just couldn't stay on the floor due to foul trouble.
Yeah, I mean, maybe to an extent that's a blessing in disguise. Maybe we should root for him to get into a little foul trouble each game, and he can play that 10-minute mark because I still think almost that's even a little too much, especially now that Carr's back being a little more healthy. But I understand it. You got to spread minutes where you can, but yeah, I mean, on paper, honestly, this wouldn't be the worst game in the world if you told me he had beforehand 4 boards in 10 minutes. That's probably a better rebound per minute rate than he's had in any game this season. So, I mean, I'll take that. He did airball that 3. Had the bad turnover you're talking about. I mean, nobody loves Brandon Garrison more than Brandon Garrison, and when he's out there, he's gonna do what he can to try to make an impact on the game, and it obviously drives me crazy. But if you tell me every game in March he's going to play 10-ish minutes and grab 4 rebounds, then I think that would be the perfect role for him. It's just, will he go out there and give you those hustle plays throughout the year?
Yeah, and I really agree with you. And, something that Pope has always said when he's talking about getting those big men the minutes is keeping them at 100% for however long they can go at 100%. Yeah. I want Brandon Garrison at 100% for that 8 to 12 minute mark. I think that's his sweet spot. Let him go in there, tell him, hey man, you're not playing a lot. This is go in there, play with your hair on fire, contest shots, get rebounds. If you get fouls, you get fouls. You're only playing this much anyways, especially when we're able to get Andrew Carr play 33 minutes and Amari play 30 minutes in this game. Like you mentioned, I think that is the perfect role, and I think that is a recipe for success coming up.
Yeah, I actually think just in general, this whole rotation was kind of perfect. Obviously, hopefully Lamont's in a little less foul trouble going forward, so you can play him closer to that 30-minute mark. But, this is about what I want to see from these guys off the bench. I would like, Colin Chandler to continue to get that 15, 16 minutes. BG 8 to 10. I thought Trent Noah, we'll get to him, but I thought he gave you 10 solid-ish minutes. And I just think everybody's role kind of, we talked about it when Lamont was out. All these guys had to step up and play extra minutes and extra roles. I think you're really kind of seeing Pope form this rotation, and every close game in March, if these can be roughly the minutes that all these guys play, I would be thrilled with it.
Yeah, I think this was a really good lineup as well. Trent Noah, gave you a little bit over 10 minutes in this game, hit a huge 3, 2 rebounds, an assist as well. Did have a turnover in there. But like you mentioned, I think this is also a really good role for Trent Noah. Be able to go in there, get those hustle rebounds, some of those hustle plays, the 50-50 balls, and be able to knock down a 3 when he's open. I think that's more than enough for what Trent Noah needs to give you right now. He gave it to you in this game, and it helped us win it.
Yeah, and a positive plus minus. He had, a +7 off the bench. I thought him and Travis Perry just kind of, this is what we've talked about. They need to be able to hit shots, even if they're only shooting one or two a game. Just make one or two of them, and this whole team's different. I mean, and I mentioned it earlier, but that three was huge. It was 11-4 with 12 minutes to go in the first half. We had 4 points through the first 8 minutes. Can't buy a bucket, and he steps right into a fairly deep one and hits it, and it just shows like if this team can just make some threes. I know we still only shot 20 of them, but like everything just looks so much different. You're down 11-4. Trent hits a three, Brea hits a three, Perry hits a three. You score 9 straight, and you go up 13-11, and never look back after that. I mean, somebody on this team's got to make threes outside of Kobe Brea, and Andrew Carr's been doing it a little more lately. So I love the 10-ish minutes that you get from Trent Noah, and again, 2 rebounds to go along with it. I thought he played really well in the limited time.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more on that one. And with, Trent's emergence and his, ability to play more and more, we're starting to see Ansley Almanor squeezed out a little bit in this lineup. Only played 3.5 minutes in this one. Didn't record a stat outside of having one personal foul. I think you're starting to see, with Andrew Carr playing 33 minutes and Trent Noah's emergence a little bit, Ansley starting to get a little squeezed out of this lineup.
Yeah, this was just a tough game for him to play, and I know we've talked about it multiple times, but like he's just not quick enough or athletic enough, and like Missouri's very athletic, and they got a lot of guys that can score all over the court. Like there's not a guy for him to go out there and guard on Saturday. Like I know we got a lot of defensive issues to begin with, but he's definitely a bigger liability than Andrew Carr or even kind of at this point Trent Noah. So it'll be interesting to kind of see if there's games in the tournament he can play. Maybe when you play, if you play like a Big Ten team or something, maybe there's somewhere he can kind of fall into a role. But I kind of expect him just kind of hover around that 3-ish minutes and just very, very spot minutes here and there. Unless there's a game, who knows? There might be a game he goes out and gets hot, and you play him 10-12, and he goes 3 or 4 from behind the arc.
Yeah, and that's really what I think. That's been Ansley's best games so far throughout the season. Is when he just gets out there, he goes 3 for 4, 3 for 5. I think that's usually what the most you can ask for him.
Yeah.
Being that spot up 3-point shooter, being able to get you a 3-point shot when needed. I think that's going to be Ansley's role going forward. Kind of like you mentioned when Trent hit that shot and we were down 11-4. I think that's a spot where you can see Ansley in as well, trying just to shake the offense up and get some momentum going. That's what I see Ansley going forward. I don't know if you have anything else left on Ansley. If not, we'll drop over to Travis.
Yeah, to be honest, it's going to sound bad, but I don't even really remember him being in the game. I can't even remember the moment he picked up his foul. So, yeah. I'm good to move on.
All right, we'll go ahead and jump over to Travis Perry. I mean, I'll be honest, I was very critical on Travis earlier this season. I thought he was, unplayable, just not ready for the moment. And he's really stepped up. I mean, only scored 3 points in this game and did have 2 turnovers. But he's just not the complete and utter liability that he was earlier. And he's able to shoot shots, with confidence, 1 of 2 from 3 in this one. And that's really, I don't want to say that's all you need from Travis because you want him to hit more threes than that, especially as the traditional backup point guard. But just being that 3-point threat and being able to, handle the ball when Lamont gets into foul trouble or when Kobe needs a spell, I think that's more than enough that we can ask for from Travis.
Yeah, just another guy that, played solid within his role. And you're seeing it, he looks more comfortable too, not having to go out there and be relied on to play 28 minutes and, be in the starting rotation because all of your other point guards are injured. I will say I also, he probably should have been 1 of 2 on the day with 2 free throws because he got absolutely smoked on a layup again. I don't know what this dude needs to do to get a foul called on a layup. Like, it is mind-boggling that he got rocked again. It happens every game. But yeah, I thought he played well, and he was out there for a couple of the kind of big runs, and you see that with the plus 10 in just 7 minutes. Again, I thought the rotation on Saturday was perfect, and if Travis Perry, throughout the postseason can give you 6 to 8 minutes of just, solid basketball. He doesn't have to go out there and light it up and be the reason you win a game, but he just can't be the reason you lose, right? And I think in that kind of 6 to 8 minute range, he's going to play kind of the perfect role.
Yeah, and I love the phrase that you used there. Just everybody's finding their perfect role. And I think this game was, a big step in that direction. I think you saw, for the most part, outside of Lamont Butler, everybody get the minutes that they probably should. Obviously, Lamont was in foul trouble, and Ortega was as well. So you expect both of them to get a little bit more minutes, probably taking some away from Colin and maybe a little bit from Trent. But I do think Pope has found, his lineup and his roles for guys. Honestly, at the perfect time. Obviously, we're going into win or go home mode starting tomorrow night. Just in general, thoughts on the final game and how you're feeling going into the SEC tournament?
Yeah, I feel good. I think this team can make a run. They're learning kind of everybody's role without Jackson. Honestly, it's probably better just to say Jackson's out for the year rather than, maybe he's going to try to give it a go, or if you make it this far, you might be able to get him back. Like, now Kobe knows where he's got to be. Colin Chandler realizes he's got to kind of be that first guard off the bench. I feel good. And then one last point about, like, this game, like, it's back to just how quick this team can just fill it up, man. I mean, 4 points through 8 minutes of the game, and the next 32 minutes they go on to score 87. And there was a stretch there in the second half where they got up 15, and then Missouri cut it to 6 or 7, and they went a little while without a basket, and then they just get right back to just filling it up, and they can take a lead and run with it very quickly. Now, holding on to it, we got to see, and hopefully they can continue to do it. But yeah, I'm back to being very excited about this team for the postseason run.
Yeah, and I've probably mentioned it like 30 times already in the podcast. I'll be down there in Nashville for this run, so obviously, I'm wanting to see as long as a run as we can have. Haven't seen a win in quite some time down there, and
it'll be tough, but
Bridgestone Arena, I hate that place. I hate it, but I love Broadway. I need to see a win in the worst way. Obviously, the Cats are going to take on the winner of Georgia-Oklahoma. So first off, let's just start there. Obviously, lost to Georgia very early in the season, and Oklahoma, we had to take Ortega's, superhero effort to win that game. Who do you think wins that game between the two of them?
Well, Georgia is a 3.5-point favorite. I do think Georgia's probably the better team. I don't think Oklahoma's very good. Like, the fact that they're going to sneak into the tournament is kind of surprising to me. I think we'll play Georgia tomorrow night.
Yeah, I want to say Oklahoma, but I mean, both of these teams have actually gotten hot as of late. I think they both won their last 3, and I don't really want to face either as a first round matchup, and that's why the SEC is so daunting this year. I mean, you get the first game you're going to play, and it's a game you won by 1 and a game you lost by. I mean, just it's going to be so tough. But I do think Kentucky will win either one if they play.
I do too.
I think Oklahoma will probably win that game. I think it's going to be tough. Obviously, we beat them in Oklahoma. Obviously, there's still bad blood between the two teams from the last game. That was still relatively new. I mean, obviously, I got Oklahoma, and then I'm taking the Cats to beat Oklahoma on Thursday night.
Yeah, I agree that Kentucky wins on Thursday. I obviously took Georgia. I mean, part of it too is both of those were true road games. I mean, Oklahoma, you go into with all the injuries, Ortega takes over in the second half, and you find a way to steal it. The Georgia game, we've talked about it as bad as Kentucky could have played, and they were still kind of in the game late in the second half at Georgia. The place was rocking. Like, regardless of whatever team you play tomorrow night, you're going to have majority of the crowd down there, and like Nashville is going to be a buzz. That place is going to be a drunken, UK fest at 8:30 Central Time tomorrow inside the arena. Even I think it's going to be pretty well damn near all blue. So I think with that crowd, I don't think there's any way. It doesn't matter who they play tomorrow night. I think they're going to come away with the win.
Yeah, and boy, I'm hoping so. We need it. I mean, let's just talk about SEC tournament preview in general.
Yep.
Obviously, if they were to win that game versus Oklahoma and or Georgia, got Bama.
Bama.
I mean, we obviously already lost twice to them. I'm going to tell you something right now. If we play Bama, I mean, just think about all the things that have happened in which we played Bama at Bama. So we played a good game, and you had 2 points from Ortega.
And you had no Lamont, right? Lamont wasn't back yet.
And they beat you twice. It's so hard to beat a team 3 times in a row. I would have the Cats winning that game, and probably, unfortunately, my last game, I'd have them winning in Nashville.
Man, it's scary because I think we're on the exact same wavelength here, and
Yeah, they lost.
when we both
Losing on
feel
Thursday night,
when
then
we
it
both feel, but no, I agree with you. I think we get Bama the third time. Just think about it. The first game, Grant Nelson goes off. Andrew Carr, that was really kind of when the back was really bothering him. He couldn't essentially move, and he just got torched left and right in that game. Lamont was dealing with the shoulder, but still kind of playing through it. He gets torched by Sears in the second half. Like, they beat you by 5. They made 2 more threes than you in Rupp. Like, there was a world to go win that game. You go down to Alabama, you jump out to a really good start. We kind of know what happened from there, but you're again without Lamont Butler, without Jackson Robinson. Otagoaway plays his worst game of the whole year, and you were still kind of within striking distance for most of the second half. I think they're going to be juiced up Friday to go out there and show them that, hey, we're not on a different level than Alabama. Like, we're not a grade below them. We're right there with them and anybody else. And then I agree with you that I think that's the last one they win. I think we probably face Florida in the semis, and I think Florida kind of gets their revenge on us. And I actually think Florida wins the whole thing. I think they come back and beat Auburn again on Sunday.
Yeah,
I can tell by your reaction. I don't know if
this is this is really tough because I was going to say the same thing, and it doesn't make for great content here, but
yeah,
like
we're gonna fill out the same bracket.
it took a lot of things for Kentucky to win that game over Florida at Rupp. I mean, they obviously won 106
And
to 100.
they've just
I mean,
been so good since then. And they
that was a
won by 15 or we're up 15 against Auburn.
exactly. I mean, they've just been rolling. It seems like every team they've been playing, and that took a huge game from Kobe Bray where he had over 10 threes. I mean, what 10 threes? I don't know what I just said. I mean, what are we doing here? But Kobe Bray, I mean, obviously he had to have a huge game. I think that's where they'd end up losing as well, would be to Florida in that. And I genuinely hate to agree with you this much. It really hurts my insides here, but I would agree with you that they lose there, and I think Florida is probably my favorite to take home the SEC title.
Yeah, and I know I have Auburn in the championship game, but I could see Auburn being one and done in the SEC tournament kind of 2 years in a row. Well, no, not one and done. Sorry, they play Ole Miss, or they'll win that one. But I could see them losing on Saturday to either probably A&M or Tennessee. Like, both of those teams, they obviously lost to A&M. They only beat Tennessee by 2. Like, I could see Auburn being out in the semis.
Yeah, I could too, and I mainly think Tennessee. I mean, I just don't think it's that much of a great matchup. They both can score, not really.
Yeah.
Just depends. Auburn goes in those crazy, crazy spells where they'll put up 30 on you in 5 minutes, and then they won't score for 10. And I think that's a game in which Tennessee can win. So I would have Tennessee winning that one and probably putting Auburn out as well. All I know is I need the Cats to win some games.
Let's just
I need
have
to
a
get feeling
weekend.
good going into March Madness. I want to have a really good weekend down in Nashville on Broadway. I mean, let's go Cats. You got anything else you want to say to hype me up for this Nashville trip?
Well, I don't know if what I was about to say will hype you up, so maybe I shouldn't. I was just gonna say, like, even with the kind of all we're talking about, there's not a team that like Kentucky can't beat. So, like, yeah, could they come out tomorrow night and lose to Georgia or Oklahoma? Sure. Would I be shocked if they find a way to beat Bama and then beat Florida? No. So, I mean, I can't wait. It's gonna be fun. Let's just make sure we take care of business tomorrow night and let's have fun Friday.
Yeah, just take care of business on Thursday is the biggest
That's all
thing
we're
because
asking.
we're still floating between a 3 or a 4 seed. I think if you maybe be your first round bye bounce in this one, I think you'll be struggling to get that 3. But if you take care of Oklahoma or Georgia, I think you'll probably find yourself on that 3 seed. I don't know what you're thinking when it comes to that. You think we have to do more than that, or you think
No,
that's good enough?
I think if you win tomorrow night, you kind of solidify yourself as a 3. I think they might even be there regardless. I think the win over Missouri, kind of took care of that. I'm not going to say it's likely. If you make it to Sunday, like, there is a world they could creep up to a 2 seed. They could jump, Bama and a couple of these other teams that, especially beating them. So if I I would be shocked if they're a 4, in part because I don't expect them to lose tomorrow, but I'm not going to say it's insane that they could jump up and grab a 2.
Yeah, I mean, I want some of what you're drinking, and I'll take it down into
Mhm.
Nashville. I mean, I just need these Cats to win. I want to feel good going into the NCAA tournament because, man, there's so much energy and buzz around this team. It's brought back a lot of electricity to the state of Kentucky, and we're going to take it straight from the state of Kentucky right down to Nashville, Tennessee. It's going to be a great time all weekend long. Hopefully, the Cats take care of business on Thursday night. Anything else you want to say before we sign off of here?
No, I mean we can talk about where they're currently projected. They're currently projected to go to Denver and be the 3 seed with Texas Tech as your 2 seed. So, if you just handle business, you could have a. I mean, they realistically could be favored every game until the Elite Eight. So there's a world for this to kind of open up and this team to make a run.
Yeah, and I'd sign up for that. But unfortunately, feels like anytime we say take care of business,
That was the old regime, and positive vibes. Pope ain't losing. Pope's gonna go on a little bit of a run like Cal did when he first got here, and we're gonna just get back to just owning the SEC tournament.
let's get back to it. What an SEC it would be to own the SEC tournament. Obviously, follow the Cats Talk podcast on TikTok, Instagram, get your Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music. Obviously, we're probably going to go live after one of these games on TikTok here in Nashville. You'll be able to see the scene. Hopefully, it's a bunch of Kentucky fans celebrating together. Boyers, any last words for Big Blue Nation before the tip-off in Nashville Thursday night?
Now, you and all the other BBN that's heading down there, enjoy it. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm going to be watching it at home and, living and dying by every shot. But, I mean, this is what we've been waiting for. We've been waiting for a March to be excited. Let's just go on a run. Let's just do it.
All right, guys. It's win or go home. So go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue.